hearing, or it's us. Who
Yeah.
are we?
I don't know.
We're the Grouchy Club. We're the Grouchy Club.
Yes.
Together we are the Grouchy Club.
That's some sort of song from the Marx
I
Brothers.
know.
Okay. Anyway, we haven't really started, have we? We've been going for 1 minute 21 and we haven't really started.
But everybody does that. This is our equivalent of the bit where stand-ups go wandering around the audience going, is anyone here from anywhere? Has anyone ever done anything? Has anyone ever been anywhere? Look, there's foreigners, let's laugh at them.
Or in the case of Lewis Schaefer, that's into our show.
Well, to be fair, yes.
Anyway, but
You got the mention in early today.
Yes. I'm going to take bets on this. To see the point at which I actually get a
No,
mention.
I'm not going to bet with you anymore because the last time we bet, you just cheated.
Why did I cheat?
You just said his name.
Whose name?
The person that we weren't going to be mentioning. Anyway, moving on, more important things.
Yeah, the Edinburgh Fringe. Is it? You decided...
All hell has been letting loose. Now, John, you're the blogger.
But what is the road to hell paved with?
Good intentions.
And more of that later. Yes.
We don't have good intentions.
No, but PBH did.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yes. Now, this is... I'm finding myself in an odd position, which is... I know, it's just the way I'm sitting. An odd position, which is totally and utterly rooting for Kate Smurthwaite, who is...
Don't bring other people into it. It's too complicated.
Who is... No, I know, but she is really, stepping up to the button. She's stepping up to the mouse and taking a lot of flack on behalf of PBH.
Who's Peter Buckley Hill?
Buckley Hill.
Who's the organiser of the Free Fringe.
And the progenitor of the Free Fringe, the man whose vision propelled the Free Fringe and whose vision, in my humble opinion, saved the whole Fringe.
Presumably by bringing back the spirit of the Fringe.
By bringing back the spirit of the Fringe, which, and if that was a clever segue into, an ambush, I'm well aware that the way he is expressing himself now is not readily construed in the spirit of the Fringe. But Peter Buckley Hill is it's something that I genuinely feel is something to be admired. He is a man of absolutes. He doesn't ever, even if there might be an argument against it, he doesn't ever back down from his stated principles. Know, my question is this, and he is a hero of mine. He genuinely is. I know he's difficult, I know he's intransigent, but if the world had more people like him, it would be a better place, because he's a very moral man in a very immoral world. And I'm talking the world in general, but also the world of comedy. Anyway, my question is this. He states in the 195 things that you have to agree to if you want to be on the Free Fringe.
This is to be more exact, a 3,600 word agreement you have to sign.
Okay, the 3,600 word agreement that you have to sign. One of the things is that you cannot be having dealings with any one other, venue, or anyone who's having dealings with, another Free Fringe. No, another venue.
I know, you can't have dealings with any other venue who have free entry, I think is the phrase.
Right.
Which means that basically the three free operators plus Bob Slayer, who is also vaguely a free operator. So you could go to one of the paid venues, and that's not a problem.
Can you?
Yes, apparently. But you can't go to one of the...
So you could have a show in a paid venue.
I believe
and
so.
And PBH would accept you on the Free Fringe?
I believe so, because basically the reason for that rule, of course, is he's thoroughly bitter and wants to have a go at the other Free Fringes. Therefore, the paid fringes aren't a competitor in his eyes, I believe.
On the other hand, he is righteously upset at what has happened over the years.
But it has to say that ISIS are righteously upset. It's not necessarily a recommendation.
Now, you see, I think you ought to go and talk to Michael Legg. He can give you a few pointers on comparing people in the present day who are involved merely in badinage at the Edinburgh Festival to warmongering killers and murderers. I myself,
I'm one of those.
I myself have been likened by Mr. Legg to Hitler, I think.
Well, you're a very nice man, Hitler.
I would just like to state,
Vegetarian.
for the record, I have 2 balls. Anyway, you've sidetracked me. My question is...
Your question, dear.
Is now, how can Peter do business with the 3 Kennys, who really need a slap and are the cause of all this problem, when the 3 Kennys, we'll explain that in a minute, when the 3 Kennys are doing business with Friestival?
Now, the 3 Kennys, this all revolves around the rights to put on shows at the Cowgate Head venue in Edinburgh. And originally, I believe the Friestival were told they had the rights to do this, and they booked the entire venue, 9 rooms on the basis of this. And then,
rooms. You say that positively. It's got rooms. Very good.
Yes, well, this is a room.
You've been hanging about with me too long.
Indeed.
Which isn't very long.
No.
Anyway, carry on. 9 rooms.
You promised you'd never mention me hanging around. So Friestival thought they had 9 rooms. And then last Thursday, PBH, Peter Buckley Hill, turned up saying, "Oh no, you don't. I've arranged with the owners that I have 6 rooms in the same venue, and that's the cause of the problem." And interestingly and humorously, the venue, the Cowgate Head, is actually owned and run, one believes, by 3 men, all called Kenny Wall. 3 generations of the same family, all called the same name. And this is obviously a sitcom waiting to happen, or an Edinburgh Fringe waiting to happen.
I think what it's called, because very much the same thing happened last year, it's just called an annual clusterfuck, isn't it? I mean, these guys, because we don't even know, Royal we don't even know if they own the place or if they're just the licensees. And if they're just the licensees, then who the fuck is the owner?
I believe, but I could be wrong. But this is one of these comedic items. But I believe one of the Kenny Wars is an owner. One of the Kenny Wars is a licensee, not to be confused with Tam McGraw, who died happily in his bed and quite peacefully. And another Kenny War, we don't know who he is. He's just a hanger-on of some kind.
It's a spare wall.
A spare Kenny, yes.
That wonderful old Scottish joke, "I'm a war, all right then, mind nae ducks peeing you."
How we loved an Alaba. Okay.
Look, Janie Godley can do Glaswegian. I can do Glaswegian.
Where were you born?
Me?
Yes.
Paisley.
That's not Glasgow at all.
It's better than Glasgow. Well, I mean, it's worse than Glasgow, which in Glaswegian terms is better than Glasgow. Notice how Scottish I became there.
Aye. We've gone off the subject here, but in Glaswegian terms, what's the best thing to be in Glasgow?
Oh, dreadful. Appalling. Hard as fuck.
Oh, which area, though? Everyone in Glasgow's hard as fuck. My dear.
I don't think they are. The esteemed well, no, let's not go there. I was going to say the esteemed ex-arts editor of the Scotsman.
The man with 3 names.
Robert Dawson Scott.
Yeah.
He lives in Glasgow. He's not hard as fuck. Unless the occasion calls for it.
Is he from Glasgow, though?
I have no idea.
I suspect he's from
He is awfully posh.
He's probably from Edinburgh.
Frighteningly posh. 3 names is always posh.
I had a great aunt who lived in Morningside, it has to be said. No money, but lived in Morningside. In what appeared to be a Glasgow tenement, it's been dropped down. Anyway, we should get back to the Edinburgh
Indeed,
Fringe.
we should. Because, 3 Kennys need a smack. Not some smack, a smack. They really need to get themselves sorted out because they're titting around every August, pitting people against one another. The Friestival guys, I would have thought after last year's titting around, clusterfuck, would have been, better organised if the first thing they'd done was to nail the 3 Kennys to a fucking post until they signed an actual contract. I would have thought, once bitten, twice shy.
Well, that's sort of affectionate in Glasgow, though, isn't it?
Well, we're talking Edinburgh. Completely different kettle of mackerel. So I don't know why they didn't... I mean, I understand that these things take time, but knowing what twats the Kennys are, they should have pinned them down first thing.
Allegedly twat for legal reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone with half a brain, looking at the situation, value judgment made by me, they're twats. I mean, unless they're fiendishly clever. And they're doing all this deliberately and handing out non-written contracts and agreements to all sorts of people and then playing them all off against one another at the end in the hope that somebody will pay more.
No, in fact, this
They ought to talk to Ed and Charlie. They'd make a fortune.
of the underbelly. And at this point, we actually should get into the Scottish legal system, because you were trained in law. Explain why you were trained in law, how you were trained in law.
Oh, it's all a horrible thing. No, I wanted to impress my dad. And in Paisley Grammar School, where I went, along with Andrew Neil.
Andrew Neil?
Andrew Neil went to Paisley Grammar.
Oh my God, I thought it was impressive.
Paisley Grammar,
Aye.
the clever people did medicine or law. And given that I had English, French, German, Latin, and history, see the German there, it's the Hitler thing coming in. English, French, German, Latin, and history qualifications, I wasn't really going to get into medicine. So I went and did law. Also, I had watched a lot of Justice, starring Margaret Lockwood, and I had seen Witness for the Prosecution, the original, at a very, very impressionable age. And I had fallen under the hideous misapprehension, stand by for a big laugh now, that lawyers were there to help people. Thank you, John. And I did my apprenticeship with Beltrami Dunn and Company.
So you actually did law at university, and therefore
Yeah.
you understand the Scottish legal system. Because
And I did my apprenticeship with Beltrami Dunn, and then, anyway, that was all criminal stuff, because Joe Beltrami was a criminal mastermind when it came to working the law.
which a criminal mastermind is.
I know, but then you say criminal lawyer, criminal solicitor, everybody titters. Joe Beltrami was an amazing man. Anyway, yes, one of my favourite subjects was contracts,
Oh, God,
private law, Scottish private law. And because it's interesting. It's much more interesting than English contract law. And in Scottish contract law...
Why is it more interesting?
Because Scottish law grew from the Roman law system. It's a law based on principles. When if you can't see anything anywhere else in Scottish law, you can always go back to first principles. You argue a priori from first principles. English law is common law. So much about England is common. Well, we're here in Shepherd's Bush, what can I say? But in English law is a common law system, which means they go from the single instance and extrapolate to a law. So they'll go, well, we don't actually have a law, but 10 judges have said that not liking cheese is a criminal offence. So now we can say that because 5 judges have said in 5 different cases, not liking cheese is a criminal offence at common law, and nothing is going to change that unless there's a statute which will supersede. Scottish law has to have a first principle that says cheese is a wonderful thing.
How do you get a first principle? Who states the first principle?
Oh, that they're in, well, you mean you haven't read Principles of Scottish Law?
I have, of course.
By David Walker,
I have forgotten it, of course.
ex-Regius Professor, the late, I don't know, maybe he's still alive, Regius Professor of Glasgow University, the man who wrote the book.
Which century was this?
Well, to be fair, 20th, so last century.
So the basis of all Scottish law starts in the 20th century?
No. But it's the principles come from Roman law.
Ah.
And they're excellent principles. So anyway, everything's much more, just take it from me, it's better than English law.
Also, it's sort of slightly more moral, isn't it? Because
Yes.
as I understand
We are.
As I understand it, I was brought up a Presbyterian. As I understand it, you can't get gazumped in England and
In Scotland.
In Scotland rather, and the same principle is what gets involved here in Cowgate Head. That foolishly, I think, Feastival didn't have a written contract with Cowgate Head, but they had a verbal contract. In England, that a verbal contract ain't worth the paper it's written on. But in Scotland,
Well, one of the interesting things in Scotland, you can have a contract, possibly verbal, possibly it's possibly even written down. Now, if someone comes along and challenges that contract, especially if there's nothing written down, then it is possible to argue something called homologation, which means that, okay, you have agreed with me that we're going to do Grouchy Club podcast, the movie. And it's going to be fabulous. On the basis of that, I go forward and book guests. I make myself T-shirts stating "Watch the film." I market myself like as starring in the Grouchy Club podcast movie. Then my actions on the basis of that assumed agreement could constitute, that's a very bad example, by the way, because that could also be construed as holding out, which is another Scottish thing. I might just start again. Anyway, what happened in this case, they had a verbal agreement. On the basis of that verbal agreement, it's a shame you can't edit on Periscope, isn't it? On the basis of that verbal agreement,
suspicion of you holding out.
Friestival, more of that next week, Friestival went ahead and booked all these acts in. Yeah. These acts paid an obscene amount of money to get into a brochure that I'm not sure how many people read anymore.
The official Fringe brochure.
The official Fringe brochure. And they've done their posters, their flyers, all of that, on the basis
accommodation as well
of that agreement. Now that, I would argue, should be construed as homologation, because it was done in the full knowledge of the Kennys. It's not like it was all done behind their back. It wasn't like the Kennys didn't know what was happening. These actions, on the basis that this was a binding agreement, have homologated the contract, making it, kind of shoring it up, as it were. Now, as it happens, it would seem that it's all immaterial now because a marvellous third way, as it were, a compromise, which possibly the first in history, a compromise involving Peter Buckley Hill and the Free Fringe, but a compromise has been reached. Talk us through the compromise. Oh, you just did. But do we think it will work?
Did we talk through the compromise?
I thought you might. All right, we'll talk through the compromise again. For those who have come late to Periscope.
But the compromise is that we did, didn't we? Yes.
Yeah.
But the compromise is that.
But this is for latecomers. Where have you been?
It's that you share the venue. This is terribly complicated. We're doing this as a sound podcast and on Periscope, and I'm also doing it on my iMac, so it might go on YouTube. But there we go. I've lost.
But you are a man who puts the toilet seat down after you've used it. So you're capable of anything in my eyes, John.
Multitasking. Yeah, I can shit and put the toilet seat down at the same time.
Oh God, is that what those marks were?
Yes.
Oh.
I've lost track of.
You were telling us about the compromise,
possibly
John.
interest. We've done that before. We've done that twice before.
Yes, but do we think it will work?
But surely isn't the point at the point at which the Kennys say you can have this venue? Doesn't that mean a contract exists in Scottish law? You can have this venue if you pay us X amount of money, or even if you don't pay us money.
Well, contracts work in the following way.
In Scotland,
I say to you. I say, I would like to sell this iPhone for offers over £65. You come in, which constitutes an offer. You come in and say, I would like to buy that iPhone. So presumably the Kennys, they made it known that Cowgate Head was available for rental for August. That's an offer. That's the offer of kind of putting it out to tender. Friestival came in and said, yes, we would like to do that. Then what makes it a contract is, because then they can say, yes, we would like to go there, but we want to pay less rent, or we want a guarantee of this. So they can tweak the conditions of the contract. But when the Kennys then say, I accept your thing with everything you've said, that then in Scots law makes a contract. Makes an arguable contract, yes.
Why is it arguable?
Well, because we're living in the 21st century, John. I know it's difficult for you and I.
You call this living?
Well, I know. I know it's difficult for people like us. But we are living in the 21st century, and almost anything can be, if you had the money to follow the whole case through, then on principles of Scots law, assuming that there's no good case law in the way and that somebody hasn't written a statute that says, what do you mean verbal contract? At which the bastard English might have, oh gosh, what do you mean verbal contract? We can't have that. But unless there's a statute or there's case law that can be argued against it, then the principle. Do you know what I mean by a principle, John?
I was brought up as Scottish Presbyterian.
Oh, well done.
Principles are my life.
A principle. So the principle would stand, and yes, it would be a contract. But it's just the best, I think, all round, that hopefully it's going to be compromised in this way. But you said that's what happened last year.
Well, apparently, according to one of the people involved, they
Who?
said...
Name names.
It was one of the Freestable people.
Who?
Dan of the Freestable said to
Dan.
me that...
I just want to get things,
Dan the
So
Freestable man...
Dan the Freestable man said
that apparently last year the venue was shared with PBH and with the Freestable, which I hadn't realised.
No, neither did I.
Although he said that PBH had come in somewhat late. And apparently last year, it seems to be the same as this year, the alleged compromise this year that PBH would have the upper bit and the Freestable would have the lower bit. I didn't know that. I wonder if anyone's still listening to this. Because
well, it was your idea to talk about the bloody Freestable debacle, or not Freestable, Free Fringe debacle. Can I just say?
No.
How well?
Yes.
To be fair, Alex Petty
Yes.
has behaved in all this.
Yeah.
He has remained kind of quiet, very non-judgmental, I think, but has said he'll be a safety net.
And,
Bob Slayer has been not quiet, really quite judgmental, but has also offered any spaces that...
Alex Petty is the man who runs one of the other competing free operations, which is the Free Festival.
Complimentary, I think, is the line to take, John. Complimentary.
Well, I mean, Alex Petty came in originally and helped out PBH with the Free Fringe. Then they fell out. Lots of people do seem to fall out with PBH.
Yes. That's because he is a strictly moral man.
Twice nominated for the Malcolm Hardy Award. But anyway.
Yes.
Although he refused the second one. He refused the second nomination, which you can't actually do. We almost gave it to him, just annoying.
Yeah, but that's because you're odious.
That's because I'm odious, yes.
It's quite incredible. I don't think anyone is one, because I'm a cunt, obviously. According to most of Facebook.
You have to explain,
and you're odious.
We have to explain this. You bumped into PBH in the Cowgate last year when he apparently wasn't in Edinburgh, but he was. And for some reason he said I was an odious man.
Yeah, he said something blah, 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 blah. The odious John Fleming.
Yes. I mean,
it has a good ring to it.
Well, I think it could be because I did meet him in the Cowgate earlier, about an hour earlier, and I did fart. But it could be more literal than you thought.
Was it an odious?
Yes,
I mean, good grief. Anyone who knows the Cowgate knows there have to be worse smells in the Cowgate than John Fleming's farts. Which, as a non-cheese eater, quite frequent, really, as farts go.
Yeah, but yes, I have. That could be why I never have dreams. Anyway, we're getting way off the subject. So if there's anyone still watching or listening, haven't dropped off.
Your idea to do the Cowgate head debacle.
Yeah, it was a mistake, and there's lots of debacles around we could have talked about. But then I also suggested what we should mention is that you're flogging your venue, this fine venue.
Not flogging. They're free. Can I get my diary?
You can.
It's an action shot. It's going to be an action shot. I shall be moving out of shot.
Not an audio, It's going to be. I'm going to have to.
Okay, I'm going to fade away.
I'm going to have to flat. It's like the Archers, isn't it?
Film, John, film.
It's like the scenes between the Archers where they just sort of go off.
I
could make this up on the audio, of course. Well, indeed on the video too. Oh, she's taking her clothes off. She's dressed as the back half of an elephant. And the front half of a camel. It doesn't look good.
Tell me it's seamless.
And she's taking those costumes off and she's back as herself.
Was that seamless?
That was seamless. I don't
Fantastic.
think they probably didn't notice.
They'll never have noticed I'm gone.
The viewer stroke listener probably didn't know.
Here we go. Now.
We will set this up. We must set things up.
Okay, sorry.
Which is Mama Biashara is Copstick's charity shop in Shepherd's Bush Market.
Where we are.
Where we can see only part of the vast auditorium. And at the back of that, there's space for 50 people to sit and watch Fringe previews or any old preview shows and comedy drama, provided you don't have a brass band, don't make a lot of noise, and don't annoy the neighbours.
But we're not. What we have is the space. We're not huge on technical. It's a very, very kind of free fringy. There's blacks all round it. The seating's comfy. It's a nice atmosphere, but we've got no electrics. I'm looking to borrow, just in case anyone is out there, I'm looking to borrow a couple of lights. And, I mean, it's so small. And as you can hear, the whole place is so echoey. It's like a concrete bunker that I, frankly, would despise. It's possibly... No, it's not too strong a word. Despise anyone who insisted on using a microphone. Because it'd be purely cosmetic.
In fact, you say it's very fringy, very free fringy, but in fact, I should point out other operators are available, as well as
Good
free
point.
fringe.
So here we go. This coming Saturday...
Date?
The 30th of May.
2015.
2015. Saturday, 7:30, the wonderful, and can I just apologise to him there, the much maligned Giacinto Palmieri is doing a special one-off last ever performance of his Ride of the Wagnerian. Jacinto wrote a really, really lovely thing about me on Churchill.
And what did he say?
Now we're not going to go into that.
Yes, we are.
And no, we're not.
No.
And now he is...
It was a love letter.
It was a really nice thing. And now he's getting it in the neck all over the forums or the fora. And it's just horrible. It's horrible. Feel free to hate me. But he's an incredibly lovely guy. Outrageously smart in several languages. And get off his fucking back, you arseholes. Okay, moving on.
What did he say about you?
Never mind. Now, then we've got a big gap, just in case, at the beginning of June, in case anyone's wanting to come and do, try out stuff. Doesn't need to be a whole show. It can be an evening. It can be 4 or 5 years. Try out anything you like. Bring your own audience. Bring your own beer. We can do some flyering, but it's the space that's here for you.
And this has to be after 6 o'clock at night.
Has to be after 6 o'clock at night. Oh yes, the 11th of June. I have a gastroenterology appointment at Charing Cross Hospital at 2 p.m.
Can we come?
And then on the 16th, rushing in a rheumatology appointment at Hammersmith for Malupus. But on the 18th, we kick off again with Charmaine Hughes. We like Charmaine Hughes.
We like Charmaine Hughes.
So she's on. I think she's want to start at 7.
Free fringe.
So that's fantastic. And then excited, Asian Woman of the Year award winner.
Who's that?
Sajila.
Oh, Sajila who? Who? Whatever.
Sajila Kershi.
Bless you.
And Daphne Barham. They're doing, it's not a double act, although maybe it should be. They're each doing their Edinburgh shows. Sajila's doing one of her Edinburgh shows. Yes, Asian Woman of the Year, fucking fantastic. Then on the 20th of June, Jambi McGrath, excellent woman, is doing her new show, which is called The Devil's Doorbell.
And what's The Devil's Doorbell?
The Devil's Doorbell, as you well know, John, is the clitoris. But this is...
It's a show that's difficult to find.
That's all. It's a little man in a boat. It's... The reason it's called The Devil's Doorbell is all to do... I think it's all bound up in the show. I don't know. I haven't seen the show. I'm seeing the show on the 20th of June, which is a Saturday. But her last year's show was fascinating.
Presumably it's about female genital mutilation, is it?
No, of course not. Don't be ridiculous.
Oh, that's been cut, is it?
I'm so sorry. Moving swiftly on. Now, okay, I'm not judging here, but possibly even more excited, the 24th, which is a Wednesday. How good a double bill is this? How good? Wednesday, the 24th. You have to come and see Spencer Jones, utterly brilliant last year at the Hive, utterly brilliant, and Tim Renko. They're each previewing their Edinburgh shows. I am so excited that not quite a lot of We is coming out because I'm very old and it gets that way.
Can you invite Lewis Schaefer to Tim Renko's show? They're a great double act.
This is Tim's show. You can pop along at the end, but I'm not having bloody Schaefer ruining everybody else's night. Spencer Jones, Tim Renko, 24th. And that is going to be fucking phenomenal. Then your friend, Sarah Mason.
Sarah
Mason is previewing her show about getting pedophilically fucked by who? Oh, Burt Lancaster.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Which is true. It's not allegedly. It's true. Well, she says it's true.
Well, that's true. And,
So it is true.
And well, there's more to the story than that, but she can tell
Anyway, yes.
It's her story.
She is on the 25th, which is a Thursday, at 7:30.
If you say you could sell your space to people, you're not telling what's on. Who's next?
I know. 27th is Il Puma Londinese. The Italians are here, all of them. It's going to be fabulous. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be Italian. It's just glorious.
And is
you
this-
can't have a better... It's really the most awesome night. John and I go to the Blue Post. It's a brilliant night. So either go and see them at the Blue Posts,
Which is a fortnightly show.
which is a fortnightly show, and it's free, or come here, which is the 27th. Then Juliet Myers on the 29th of June. Omar Hamdi, who is an Egyptian Welshman. Sounds fascinating.
And he sometimes turns up at the Italian thing, doesn't he?
He does. Yes, he does. On the 2nd of July. We're now into July. Last one so far in June is Juliet Myers on the 29th. Omar Hamdi. Sounds great. Then again, an Italian night on the 4th of July. Romina Puma and Luca Cupani.
You just like Italian men, don't you?
I like Italian everything. And I like Italian comedy. And this is very good Italian comedy. And this is, Romina Puma is doing her Not Disabled Enough. At which point I should point out that it's a completely flat venue. Very, very, very wheelie friendly. It's wheelie friendly. Oh, sorry. God. Gee. Then there's another lots of gaps.
How long have we been going? Carry on. Keep going.
16th of July, Stella Graham. 17th of July, Bongolicious, which is your last chance to see Jamie McGrath's last year's show, and it's a wither ringer. And then 28th, Joanna Coffey, who is quite new to me, but that's quite exciting.
I didn't like to say I'd never heard of her.
No, she's quite new to me. And then there's another girl who's just contacted me by WhatsApp or something, who's only arrived. She's Australian. It's her first ever Fringe. I'll remember her name for the next podcast. But she's coming along at that tail end of July. And then, of course, we was up to Edinburgh. But if you're London-based and you're broke, then you could save yourself a fucking fortune on travel and accommodation to Edinburgh by just coming and seeing all these previews.
Or you could put on your own show here. And does it cost money to put your own show on
No,
here?
not at all.
How does it work?
How does it work? It works. You have talent. You hone that talent for many years. You write some brilliant material. You tear it all up because it's not good enough. You write some more. You write some. Maybe like 10 years after that, you've got 50 minutes of stonkingly good stuff. Then you phone me up and go, Copstick, is the space free? I say yes.
It seemed a simple question. The answer to which was...
No, it's free. Phone me up. Email me, copstick@bobbiesgirl.co.uk.
BOBBYS.
GIRL.
S?
Nothing.
No, S.
You see, you've confused it all
I know, I
now.
have, yeah.
BOBBYSGIRL.co.uk.
Bobby's Girl.
Um,
So you
no
don't-
hate mail, please.
So it is like the Free Fringe, although of course it's an homage rather than
It's an homage.
competition, not
It's an
competition.
homage, and I'm quite happy, no matter who you're with, you can come and preview your show here.
And then at the end, you're encouraged to encourage
Oh,
your audience.
At the end, I will be insisting on some folding stuff in the bucket. I don't do shrapnel. This money will be going in a bag and coming over to Kenya with me. And if anyone remotely thinks that I'm going to board an overpriced British Airways flight with a bag of shrapnel, they can think again. Notes only.
So
please.
it doesn't cost you to rent the venue.
No.
The audience doesn't pay to get in.
Nope.
But they donate money to
To get
Copstick's
out.
charity.
And it's
and
BYOB.
And 100% goes to Copstick's charity. BYOB. Oh.
Bring your own booze.
Not bring your own bob.
Because they can, because we're not licensed, but it is fabulous. And last thing, Stop Press, Mel Moon is going to come and do a proper preview of her now solo Edinburgh show.
So this was the show where she was going to do it with Dr. Death. The man
Yes,
who
she's no longer doing it with Dr.
and
Death.
Who's Dr. Death?
Dr. Death is Philip Nitschke, who founded Exit, which I think is a tremendous organisation. Mel has had difficulties, which I'm sure you'll hear all about on Facebook, but she's gone off for a well-earned holiday just now. She's a bit poorly unwell, so she's recharging her batteries. When she comes back, she's going to be putting together the solo show, which is called Sick Girl, and which will be on at 3 p.m. in the Meadow Bar. Alex Petty, God bless him and all who sail in him, came to her rescue, and she is in the Meadow Bar at 3 p.m. She'll be previewing here as well, but you heard it here first. Well, unless you know Mel.
And who's directing our show?
Well, I'm not directing. I'm being a sounding board. I really don't think stand-up shows should be directed.
Is that for tax reasons? You're being a sounding board?
No. There's no money in it. No, I'm just being a sounding board, and yeah. But I don't even like the concept of directing a stand-up show.
Yeah, directing's a funny word. It's
Yeah,
more,
it can't be.
It's more script editing, I would have thought, direction, isn't it?
Or just being a sounding board.
Yeah.
I've said that 3 times now.
Script editing, I'll say.
And because there's something extraordinary in there. I told you, I'm very old. I get excited thinking about Spencer Jones and Tim Renko and the Italians and all the others coming to do shows in the shop. And, it's not just that.
No, the reason I did what I did just now is because I knew it would be nothing on audio, and therefore it's going to be surreal for people listening on the audio. No, don't explain.
Not surreal, John, just irritating. It was a toilet roll. I'm now holding up the kitchen roll. Great visual gag. Very, very sorry podcast. Our loyal podcasting audience.
Loyal.
That's how you lose friends, John. Should we say goodbye now?
Yeah, exactly. Isn't there something else we were plugging? We're going to mention the fact that the Grouchy Club is live in Edinburgh from a date which I can't remember, but it's on the grouchyclub.co.uk website, 3:45 in the afternoon. And we're doing, as far as I remember, we're doing like the last 2 weeks, aren't we?
Something like that, yes.
The reason being is that last year when we did it, there were lots of very good shows that clashed with ours, and poor old Copstick had to abscond from her actual own show to see these other shows for professional reasons.
Well, some of them.
So this year, there's like about a week and a half or something in which Copstick can see these shows that clash with us. And then we've got a straight run of our Grouchy Club show live in Edinburgh at the...
And I'll be there all the time.
At the Counting House. And God help us all, she'll be there all the time.